So after TPs conduct their course, they will need to submit trainee attendance. There are two methods to submit the attendance, digital and manual. The recommended method is digital attendance taking. Trainees can take digital attendance by scanning a QR code or by entering an attendance code into MySF through a link. After doing so, the trainee's details will be automatically captured and synced to TP Gateway. Using this method is faster as trainers will not need to manually keep track of attendance and upload the attendance to TP Gateway after the training session. The second method is to upload manual attendance. This method is more tedious and involves more steps than the digital attendance method. This process is also rather manual, and you can run into the risk of providing inaccurate trainee details. There is also a deadline for manual submission. Manual attendance records must be submitted within 45 calendar days after the course ends for public course runs, and within 105 calendar days after the course end date for in-house course runs. So any submissions after the cutoff date will be considered late and will not be captured. However, the manual attendance method is useful if trainees are unable to register their attendance due to the system being down, or if they forget to register their attendance during the session. We also want to highlight that multiple attendances can be uploaded for multiple different course sessions. So these are the two methods of attendance taking, and I'll first be taking you through how to take digital attendance. So 3 days before the course start date, the trainer and the course admin will receive an email containing the link to the QR code and attendance code for trainees to scan and mark their attendance. Note that this email will only be sent to these two individuals in your organization. However, if you are neither the course admin or the trainer, you can retrieve the link to the QR code from the course run tile directly. So once you receive this code, you can flash the QR code on the screen for the attendees to take their attendance. Trainees also have the option to key in the attendance code that will be provided on the same screen. The attendance will be saved automatically in TP Gateway, and no further action will be needed from TPs unless there's any missing information or system issue. So for example, if some trainees are unable to scan the QR code, TPs will need to manually upload attendance using the Excel template provided on TP Gateway. The manual attendance method will be explained later in the training. So this is a high-level overview of the end-to-end process. So let's just take a deeper dive into what each step looks like. As mentioned before, the trainer and the course admin will receive a link in their emails. So this is an example of what the email will look like. The trainer can click on the link as shown over here, and it will take you to a page with the QR and attendance code that will look something like this. Here you can see the QR code that attendees can scan, and over here you can see the attendance code. So do note that this link sent in the email will stay the same throughout the course run, but the QR code will refresh for each session. For example, if I have a course running every day from Monday to Friday, on Monday when I click the link, it will be the QR code for the Monday session. And on Tuesday, clicking the same link will bring me to a new QR code for the Tuesday session. So it is the same link, but a different QR code per session. So make sure to refresh the link every session so that the right QR code shows up. Also, the QR code for each session will only be available for 30 minutes before the session and 30 minutes after the session. So for example, a session that starts at 2 and ends at 4, the QR code will only be visible from 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This is to allow trainees to arrive earlier to take their attendance before the session starts and to cater to latecomers to take attendance after the session. We also want to highlight that trainees, even if trainees scan the QR code at the end of the session, they will not be marked as late and their attendance will be fully captured in the system. So how can trainees take their digital attendance? Just like Trace Together, trainees can use their phone cameras to scan the QR code and follow the link. The link should bring them to a browser where they can log in using SyncPass or social media. Then click Allow My Skills Future to capture the location. Click on Take Attendance at the bottom of the screen, and when successful, it will show a confirmation page like this, meaning that the attendance was successfully recorded in the system. Trainees also have the option of taking attendance via attendance code if they do not have their phone cameras or they are using a laptop. So they can follow the link provided in the box over here and enter the attendance code and their particulars to mark their attendance. Trainees should see a confirmation page if their attendance has been successfully recorded. Lastly, this is how trainers can view and reconcile their trainee attendance. Once all trainees have checked in, you can see the details here on the screen. You can compare these against your personal records to check if all participants have recorded their attendance. These records will then be synced to TP Gateway. So this is how digital attendance can be taken via QR code or attendance code. The second option for attendance taking is to manually upload attendance records. As previously mentioned, this method is more tedious than the recommended digital method. However, this method might be necessary when trainees are unable to register their attendance during the session or when the system for digital attendance taking is down. In addition to that additional step, there is also a deadline to submit this manual attendance. So for public course runs, attendance must be submitted 45 calendar days after the course end date, whereas for in-house course runs, attendance must be submitted 105 days after the course end date. Anything submitted after this deadline will not be taken into consideration. So now let's do a deep dive into the steps to upload manual attendance. First, go to TP Gateway and select the attendance tile. Next, search for the course run session to upload attendance records for. Then, select the sessions to upload the attendance for. Do note that you can select multiple sessions. So after you select the relevant session or sessions, download the attendance Excel file template located here and fill in all the relevant trainee details. Not to worry, we will walk you through the Excel template shortly. Also note that the identification number, identification type, email address, and mobile number will be mandatory fields. So once this Excel file is filled up, upload the file over here and click Upload. After this, you will need to select all the relevant attendees again and then click Publish. Then you will also do note that at this point, the attendance is not confirmed yet, and there is still an additional step to confirm the attendance. So TPs will need to select the relevant attendees again, and then click Confirm, and then confirm again to submit the attendance. So after this, you have completed the manual attendance submission. As you can see, there are many more steps than the digital attendance taking, so we recommend TPs to take the digital attendance. Now we will walk you through the Excel template for attendance taking. So in the Excel, you can refer to the definition tab for the instructions on the formatting or the parameters that you will need to follow when filling in the Excel sheet. And in this tab over here called Attendee Data, this is the tab where you will fill in the attendee attendance information. As previously mentioned, before downloading the Excel, you will need to select the sessions that you want to upload your attendance for. So for the sessions that you selected, you can see that there is pre-populated data here located in the columns located in red. And when uploading the attendee information for those in the same course, simply copy and paste the pre-populated information into another row and fill in the attendee information. Also, do make sure to adhere to the guidelines for uploads. There will be pop-ups to remind you about the parameters in the Excel. Yeah, so let's just go back to the slides. So just as a refresher, you will, after filling all of this up, you will need to upload the file, select the attendees to upload for, publish attendees, and then select the attendees again, and then press confirm, and then confirm again. So just want to emphasize that the digital method is the preferred one. So just to conclude, we wanted to highlight some points. Firstly, the QR code link will remain the same throughout the whole course run, but the QR code will change for each session. Next, the attendance can be submitted two ways digitally, whereby the attendees can select can scan a QR code or enter an attendance code, and then the attendance will automatically be uploaded to TP Gateway. The second method is manual, whereby the TP will need to download and then upload an Excel into TP Gateway. However, it is much more tedious, and the digital method is the recommended one. And lastly, for manual uploads, there is a deadline. So for public course runs, attendance must be submitted by 45 days after the course end date, whereby for in-house course runs, the attendance must be submitted by 105 calendar days after the course end date. You may refer to some additional resources, such as our video for digital attendance taking and our user guide for attendance here. Okay, now we'll just move on to the assessment section. After the course is over, TPs will need to upload trainee assessment records into TP Gateway. In this section, we will run through the methods to upload these assessments, as well as the details of each method. So there are two methods to submit the trainee assessments. The first is to submit a single assessment. This is to upload assessments one at a time. The good thing about this method is that the record will be instantly validated and processed. This method is the recommended one if enrollments are already created. In this case, the user interface will allow TPs to go in and add the scores for trainees on the same page individually. Secondly, it's also recommended if there's only one skill code for the course. This will be further explained later. And lastly, if the assessment submission deadline is approaching, the single assessment upload is recommended, as the record will be instantly validated and processed. And the second method is to upload a bulk assessment. This is to upload multiple assessment records across different courses and course runs in a single upload. When uploading the file, the system will only validate that the format of the Excel file is correct. For example, if there are alphabets in the contact number field, the system will flag this as an error. However, the actual validation of the information uploaded, such as comparing the entry's NRIC details with the back-end government data, will take some time. Hence, with bulk upload submissions, there will be additional processing time to do these checks to ensure that the information provided is legitimate. This waiting time will be dependent on the number of uploads by other TPs. So if there is a large backlog of data for the system to process, then there will be a longer waiting time. However, once the data is processed, there will be an in-system notification once processing is complete. TPs are encouraged to check back within 1 to 2 days upon submission. We also want to highlight that as compared to the enrollment bulk upload, TPs can upload records across different courses, but the bulk upload for enrollments are limited to the same course. This method is recommended when there are multiple records to be submitted across courses or course runs. If there is more than one skill code for the course, and if there's enough time before assessment submission deadline. First, let's go through the method to submit a single assessment. In TP Gateway, navigate to the Assessments tile. Search and select the course that you want to upload assessments for. In this case, you want to add assessments to this course run. When you click into the course run, any enrollment records previously submitted to the course run will be populated on the page. We can edit this trainee's assessment results when we click on the edit icon in the first column. You may also add assessments via the Add Assessment button on the top right if there are no trainees enrolled on the page and the edit icon is not accessible. Do also note that there is an assessment submission deadline, and the edit button will disappear after this cutoff date. The deadline for the public course runs are 45 days from the course end date, while for in-house course runs, it is 105 days from the course end date. So after clicking the edit icon, you will see this user interface. When editing, you will see that trainee ID and course run fields are non-editable. So if the content is wrong, for example, the trainee's assessment record has been added to the wrong course run, please void this record by clicking void in the results field. If everything is correct, proceed to enter the assessment results and any additional details and click the save icon on the left before adding another assessment record. Do note that fields like result and assessment date are mandatory as shown by the asterisk, while fields like score and skill code are optional. We want to highlight that while skill code is not marked as mandatory on the system, TPs must input the relevant skill codes for each assessment upload for IBF courses. So regarding skill codes, there should be one assessment record per skill code. So for example, if a course has 3 skill codes and 1 assessment, there should also be 3 assessment records uploaded, one separate upload tagged to each skill code. So in these cases, bulk uploads may be preferred. In the skill code field, you should see a drop-down of all of the skill codes tagged to this course. But if you want to find out more details about the skill code, like the skill title, then you can navigate to the course registry, which I will show you now. So to locate skill code tagged to a course, navigate to the course registry tile. The user must be granted read-only or full access to the course registry tile to be able to click into this. Then navigate to the course listings tab to find the relevant course. And once you click into the course, navigate to the skills and industry relevance section to see the skill code tagged to the course, as well as the information about the skill codes. So we have now finished the single upload section. And now I will explain how to upload bulk assessments. So just as a refresher, bulk uploads are a way to submit multiple assessment records across different courses and course runs. In TP Gateway, navigate to the Assessments tile. Once we are in, click on the bulk upload button located on the top right of the page. Then you will see a pop-up as shown over here. Then click on the link to download the Excel template. So after filling in the Excel sheet, proceed to upload this file and then over here and then click Submit. Now bring it one step back, the file you downloaded should look something like this. There will be an instructions tab with the relevant information for you to fill in the assessment upload template tab. So do complete all the mandatory fields indicated with the asterisks and make sure that there are no more than 500 records. When uploading this file, do also make sure that it is in a CSV format. And all you need to do is when saving the Excel file, instead of saving it as an Excel worksheet, you just select CSV from the drop-down menu. So now I'll take you through a more in-depth walkthrough of the downloaded template. So when you open the Excel, you will see the Instructions tab. And this will give you information on how to fill in the assessments upload template. So we can see which fields are mandatory, what are the allowed values, and it will show us also some sample values. So if you navigate to the assessments upload template, you will see some headers that are marked with the asterisks, which are the mandatory ones that need to be filled in. Also do note that there are some fields with drop-down bars. So make sure that you select the relevant option from these, as the system will only recognize these options provided in the drop-down. Do also make sure that the assessment date is in the right format as indicated here, so use the dashes. And lastly, for IBF courses, inputting the skill code is necessary. So this part is prone to errors, so please input the complete and correct skill code. The skill code can be derived from the drop-down in the single assessment upload that we showed previously, or the course registry page that we showed just now as well. So once the file is complete, do save it in the CSV format before uploading it into the system. So when saving it as a CSV, you must save it on this template page, and then go navigate back to the previous page, upload, and then submit it on the same page where we downloaded the Excel file from. So once you have uploaded the file, the system will show you a summary of all the information that you have provided in the Excel file. You may review this information, and once you are satisfied, you can click Save. You will then see a prompt saying that you have successfully submitted your assessment records and that they are currently processing. You can also note down the batch reference number just for future reference. Do note that at this point, assessments are still not created as the system still needs to verify and process the submitted uploads. So once processing is complete, there will be an in-system notification that the bulk upload has been completed and processed. So you may click on this notification and it will look something like this. And there will be a URL link on the page that you can click into to see more details. A unique assessment number will be created for each successfully saved assessment record. As you can see, the entries that have not been successfully saved are missing an assessment number. So if the assessment was unable to be processed, do refer to the reasons for failure column to rectify the error and then re-upload them for processing. So here are some common error messages. The first category are formatting and sizing errors. So for example, the import file could have contained more than 500 records, and in this case, please re-upload the file with no more than 500 records. There could also be missing or incorrect date format on the Excel, so do ensure that the date format is in dashes when entering the details in the Excel. And lastly, the file size could be too big, so do ensure that the file size is within 5 MB. Other errors are trainee detail errors. So during validation, there could be a mismatch of info. So please recheck the particulars to ensure that there is no typo. And there could also be an incorrect training ID. So please select from the drop-down bar to ensure that it is one of the options provided in the list. And lastly, other errors can include errors such as the wrong course run ID, missing fields when uploading the file, or invalid inputs. In these cases, please ensure that all mandatory fields are filled and that all the values are listed in the drop-down menu or follow the specified format as stated in the instruction sheet. So in conclusion, these are some points to note. When uploading assessment records, there should be one assessment record per skill code for each trainee. So just to refresh your memory, if there are 3 skill codes associated with the course and there's one assessment, the assessment needs to be uploaded 3 times, each tagged to one of the 3 skill codes. So secondly, assessments can be submitted using 2 methods. Firstly, the single submission method, which is recommended if enrollments are already created, if there's only one skill code, and if the assessment submission deadline is approaching. And bulk upload, which is recommended if there are multiple records to be submitted across courses or course runs. If there's more than one skill code and if there's enough time before the assessment submission deadline. Firstly, we want to remind TPs that they must submit their assessment records before 45 calendar days from the course end date for public course runs and before 105 calendar days from the course end date for in-house course runs. So submissions thereafter are considered late and will not be taken into account. You can also refer to these videos and user guides for further information.
So with this, with what we just covered earlier on for course runs, enrollments, attendance, and assessments, this would mean that the training provider would have completed the grant process. Okay, and what will happen is there will then be a pre-disbursement check that is done automatically by the system. So what the system will be doing is once the submission deadline has passed. So for example, for a course run, for a public course run where the submission deadline for attendance and assessment is 45 days after the course run end date, on the 46th day onwards, what the system will do is it will start to pick up all these grants under this course run and then run the disbursement checks to see if whether or not the submissions were done on time, attendance is it more than 75%, assessments passed, have assessments been uploaded for each of the skill codes. And once all these checks are done, if the grant passes all the checks, what will happen is disbursements will be, financial transactions will be created for these grants. And then once it's being released to CFG and finance officer release the disbursements to bank, then the training providers will be able to receive their disbursements via PayNow, provided that they have already updated their PayNow account onto the organization profile tile. But if let's say any of these pre-disbursement checks did not pass, then what will happen is the system will continue to keep checking every single day to see if whether or not the the pre-disbursement criteria has been met. So for example, maybe the TP has already uploaded the attendance and assessments on time, but what is just pending is actually the enrollment fee collection status. So because the TP actually has up till 120 days to update this fee collection status, maybe the TP will only update it on the 80th day. So what happened is before that bill is being updated, the system continues to pick up this grant every day to check. Once that bill has been updated on the 80th day and the system checks it on the 80th day, it will then process it and create that financial transaction. Okay. And there may be cases whereby the grant is flagged out for manual grant review. Maybe there was a penalty code that was detected. And so the system will not create that financial transaction automatically because it still has to go through a level of manual review by the agency officer. So that will then be created by the system. There will be a task that is created under the officer's workspace, and officer will need to pick up the grant and review the grant, review all the details that's been uploaded by the training provider, as well as some other information relating to maybe the trainee or the training provider, to determine whether or not the grant should still be released for disbursements, or whether or not the grant, maybe it has to be cancelled because there's some fraud issues or something like that. Okay, so now, assuming that the grant has been has passed through the pre-disbursement check, then let's go through these two tiles, grants and financial transactions, to see what the TPs can actually manage in these two tiles. Okay, so when the TPs go to the grants tile, okay, sorry, before that, just wanted to share the recap of the submission deadlines again. What they should be looking at when they go to the grants tile. So they need to make sure that enrollments, attendance, and assessments are actually uploaded in time. And these are the criteria. Trainee needs to have 75% for attendance, and for assessments that for courses with assessments, they need to make sure that they have uploaded the assessment records, and each skill code must have an assessment record tagged to it. Okay, so when they click onto the grants tile, what they will see is they can see all the list of the course runs, and they just have to locate the course run that they are going to manage, click on it, and then they can go to this training summary page where they will be able to see the deadlines for all this submission this submission criteria. So the enrollment cutoff date, attendance, submission, and assessment submission cutoff date, all these are based on the 45 days or 105 days, depending on the type of course run. So they need to make sure they adhere to the submission deadlines. If not, any submissions that's only done after that will be considered late, and the system will actually ignore the submissions unless the officers go into TGS to rescore the enrollments manually. And then what will happen is the system will then pick up all these grants and then look at what has been submitted, and will not take into consideration the date where the training provider submitted this information for. So as the TP scroll down further, they will be able to see the list of enrollments that has been submitted for this course run, and the attendance for each of the session within the course run, and also the number of assessment that has been submitted for this particular course run as well. Okay, so there is a filter for fee collection status here, because the fee collection status has to be updated as full payment for all enrollments before the grant can be picked up for disbursement. Okay? So a quick way for TPs to check is to filter. They can see which are the trainees that have still not paid, and then they can either chase for payment, or maybe it's a case whereby the trainee already paid but they have not updated the status. Then they can filter easily and update the records quickly as well. So I will show you a video demo of how this can be updated later on. Okay. And do take note that the attendance and assessment scoring for each of the trainee, for example, you see all this dash here. Currently, it's shown as dash. Okay, so this figures will actually be populated only after the submission deadline. So, for example, the deadline is 45 days after course run end date. The scoring will only be updated whether it's a 75%, 100%, or any other number. It will be updated only after the submission deadline has passed. Same goes for assessment. Whether it's a pass or fail, it will only be populated after that. So now I will show you a demo of how to update the fee collection status. Okay, so the TP can actually access this training summary page from two tiles. Actually, they don't have to necessarily come through grants. If they go through enrollments, they can also reach the same page. Okay, it's actually the same. When they come into either tiles, they just when they click on the course run, they will enter the training summary page where they can look at the list of trainees here. Okay, and then if they want, they can filter the fee collection status. But if not, based on what I have on screen right now, you can see that for all three trainees here, all the fee collection status is pending payment. So I will want to update this fee collection status to full payment so that the trainee can, so that the grant can be disbursed. So when I click on the enrollment ID, you will see that this is a very familiar page. It's actually the enrollment submission page that we saw earlier on. Okay, and if the TP scroll down, they will be able to see this fee collection status. So by default, this field is actually updated as pending payment. So what the TP can do is to change this to full payment. Okay, and then click on save. Okay, and then confirm. Okay, and once that has been saved, okay, there will be a banner to just confirm that it's updated successfully. And what the TP can do is to go back to the training summary page for the course run. Scroll back down to the trainee section. You will see that the fee collection status for this trainee has now been updated to full payment. Okay. So this is how they can update. Okay. And if I return back to the top of this training summary page, we can also click on the View Grants button to look at the grant that is associated to each enrollment. So when I click on this, I will be able to see not just the enrollment, but for each enrollment, what is the grant ID and what is the scheme of the grant, as well as the amount of the grant. So it's before it's being paid out, it will show as estimated grant amount. Okay, it will be estimated because subject to any pre-disbursement and all, we cannot confirm that it's 700. Or it can be a case whereby eventually it becomes zero because the trainee did not pass the pre-disbursement criteria. For example, the trainee did not attend all the sessions and only met 50% of the attendance criteria. So then the $700 can eventually become zero. Okay. And then if I scroll to the right, because this is a pretty long table, okay, then there will be a paid amount as well as the status. Okay, so once this grant has been paid, then of course the paid amount will be updated and the status will also be updated as paid. So now that we have covered grants, okay, let's look at the financial transactions tile. Okay, so this when TP goes into the financial transactions tile, they will be able to see the listing of all the disbursements that they have received from the agencies. So it will break down for each of the enrollment and the grant ID, what is the financial transaction ID. Okay, so everything will have their own ID. And also with each of the record, it will also show you, for this transaction ID, which cost is it related to, which cost run, what is the funding component, as well as what is the ID for this trainee. So if TP wants to locate, like probably the disbursements from a particular cost run, for example, they can use the filter to filter according to what the parameters that they want. Okay. So maybe they want to look at what is the cost run or what's the component, or they want to look at the dates. Okay. They can filter. Okay. They can also download the current view in an Excel file based on what they filtered. So now this is something that we have discussed earlier on about how it is important for the TPs to update their PayNow account to ensure that they still can continue to receive disbursements after we move to TP Gateway. So there will be no prompts for migrated TPs when they first log into TP Gateway. They need to ensure that they do this manually after we go live on 10th of October. Okay. So the first thing they need to do is to click on the organization profile tile. Okay. And then remember, when they go in, they will be by default at the SSG profile. So they need to switch profile to IBF. Okay, and then on the top, they will see the update profile button because their profile will be will be migrated over, so they will have an existing profile already there. They don't have to submit any new applications, so they can just click on update profile. Okay, and then they scroll down to this pay now account section. Okay, and then this will be empty because this is something that is not captured within the IVF portal right now, and they will need to add this in TP Gateway. So they can click on add new record. Okay, they need to enter their company's UEN. So they need to make sure that this is the same as their UEN. They cannot enter another company's UEN as their corporate pay now account. And they also need to enter a suffix code if this is applicable for them. But if they do not have this, they can just leave this empty. And they also have to check that this account is default. If this is their only record, then they need to check this box and then click on validate. So the system will actually validate whether or not the PayNow UEN is the same as their UEN, etc., or whether or not there's any errors in like maybe the suffix code is not a valid one. Okay, and once it's validated, the TPs will then be able to submit this organization profile update. So once that's done, then they would have successfully updated their PayNow account. Then only after that can they receive disbursements via their PayNow. All right, so some points to note to wrap up this. The training grants will be disbursed in TP Gateway once all the disbursement criteria is met. So if it's not met at that point in time when the pre-disbursement check starts to run, the system will continue to pick up that grant every day, run it every night until the grant lapse. So currently the grant lapse date for IVF is 150 days from course run end date. So for all the public course runs, the system will actually start running from the 46th day all the way until 150th day. Every day you will run and check until it's paid out or until the 151st day when the grant actually lapsed, then the system will stop picking up the record. Okay, and all the grants in TP Gateway will be disbursed via PayNow. So it is very important that training providers who are migrated over from IVF portal to go into the organization profile to update their PayNow ID. So it's recommended they do it once they log into TP Gateway. Okay, and for any claims that's submitted in IVF portal relating to any causes that start before the cutover date on 10th of October, the TPs should continue to follow the existing process in IVF portal because only for causes starting from 10th of October will be managed in TP Gateway. So if TPs have any questions relating to their corporate pay now, they can contact their local bank for more information on how they can link their corporate account to pay now.